Okay, today is the 22nd of August 2010, and we come to Majjhima Nikaya Sutta 82, Rattapala Sutta, on Rattapala. This sutta is a very interesting sutta. This talk tonight is the 34th in this series on the Majjhima Nikaya, 34th. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was wandering in the Kuru country with a large sangha of monks, and eventually he arrived at a Kuru town named Tula Kotita. The Brahmin householders of Tula Kotita heard the recluse Gotama, the son of the Sakyans, who went forth from a Sakyan clan, has been wandering in the Kuru country with a large sangha of monks and has come to Tula Kotita. Now, a good report of Master Gotama has been spread to this effect, that Blessed One is Arahant, Sammasambuddha, perfect in true knowledge and conduct, sublime, knower of worlds, incomparable leader of persons to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, enlightened, blessed. He declares this world with its gods, its maras and its brahmas, this generation with its recluses and Brahmins, its princes and its people, which he has himself realized with direct knowledge. He teaches the Dhamma good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end, with the right meaning and phrasing, and he reveals a holy life that is utterly perfect and pure. Now, it is good to see such arahants. Then the Brahmin householders of Tula Kotita went to the Blessed One. Some paid homage to the Blessed One and sat down at one side. Some exchanged greetings with him, and when this courteous and amiable talk was finished, sat down at one side. Some extended their hands in reverential salutation towards the Blessed One and sat down at one side. Some pronounced their name and clan in the Blessed One's presence and sat down at one side. Some kept silent and sat down at one side. When they were seated, the Blessed One instructed, urged, roused, and encouraged them with talk on the Dhamma. Now at that time, a clansman named Rattapala, the son of the leading clan in that same Tula Kotita, was sitting in the assembly. Then it occurred to him, as I understand the Dhamma taught by the Blessed One, it is not easy while living in a home to lead the holy life, utterly perfect and pure as a polished shell. Suppose I shave off my hair and beard, put on the yellow robe, and go forth from the home life into homelessness. Then the Brahmin householders of Tula Kotita, having been instructed, urged, roused, and encouraged by the Blessed One, with talk on the Dhamma, delighted and rejoiced in his words. They then rose from their seats, and after paying homage to him, they departed, keeping him on their right. Soon after they had gone, the clansman Rattapala went to the Blessed One, and after paying homage to him, he sat down at one side and said to the Blessed One, Venerable Sir, as I understand the Dhamma taught by the Blessed One, it is not easy while living in a home to lead the holy life, utterly perfect and pure as a polished shell. Venerable Sir, I wish to shave off my hair and beard, put on the yellow robe, and go forth from the home life into homelessness. I would receive the going forth under the Blessed One. I would receive the full ordination. Have you been permitted by your parents, Rattapala, to go forth from the home life into homelessness? No, Venerable Sir, I have not been permitted by my parents. Rattapala, Tathagatas do not give the going forth to anyone who does not have his parents' permission. Venerable Sir, I shall see to it that my parents permit me to go forth from the home life into homelessness. Stop here for a moment. The Buddha made a precept that if somebody wants to ordain, he has to get the parents' permission. This came about because the Buddha ordained his son Rahula at a very young age. And the Buddha's father said that he was very pained by this. he said when the Buddha left the house, he was already very hurt. And then now when the grandson, at that time maybe at the age of 6 or 7 years old, left to become a novice monk, he said it pained him to the bone. So he asked the Buddha to, next time if somebody wants to renounce, to get the parents' permission. So the Buddha made this precept. But you can see from the original story that it is meant more for youngsters who are under the guardian of their parents. So this precept, even though there is such a ruling, but if somebody ordains without the parents' permission, after that he is considered ordained. So it is up to the preceptor whether he wants to insist that somebody get the parents' permission or not. Then the clansman Ratthapala rose from his seat, and after paying homage to the Blessed One, he departed, keeping him on his right. He went to his parents and told them, "Mother and father, as I understand the Dhamma taught by the Blessed One, it is not easy while living in a home to lead the holy life, utterly perfect and pure as a polished shell. I wish to shave off my hair and beard, put on the yellow robe, and go forth from the home life into homelessness. Give me permission to go forth from the home life into homelessness." When he had said this, his parents replied, "Dear Ratthapala, you are our only son, dear and beloved. You have been raised in comfort, brought up in comfort. You know nothing of suffering, dear Ratthapala. Even in case of your death, we would lose you unwillingly. So how could we give you our permission to go forth from the home life into homelessness while you are still living?" For the third time, the clansman Ratthapala said to his parents, "Mother and father, give me permission to go forth from the home life into homelessness." For the third time, his parents replied, "Dear Ratthapala, you are our only son, dear and beloved," etc., etc. "How could we give you our permission to go forth from the home life into homelessness while you are still living?" Then, not receiving his parents' permission to go forth, the clansman Ratthapala lay down there on the bare floor, saying, "Right here I shall either die or receive the going forth." Then the clansman Ratthapala's parents said to him, "Dear Ratthapala, you are our only son, dear and beloved. You have been raised in comfort, brought up in comfort. You know nothing of suffering, dear Ratthapala. Get up, dear Ratthapala. Eat, drink, and amuse yourself. While eating, drinking, and amusing yourself, you can be happy, enjoying sensual pleasures, and making merit. We do not permit you to go forth from the home life into homelessness. Even in the case of your death, we would lose you unwillingly. So how could we give you our permission to go forth from the home life into homelessness while you are still living?" When this was said, the clansman Ratthapala was silent. For the second time, for the third time, his parents said the same thing to him. "Dear Ratthapala, you are our only son, dear and beloved, etc. How could we give you our permission to go forth from the home life into homelessness while you are still living?" For the third time, the clansman Ratthapala was silent. Stop here for a moment. So this Ratthapala was very determined to get the parents' permission, because the Buddha said he has to get the parents' permission. So he lay down there, refused to get up, refused to eat or drink. So he was fasting. So his parents pleaded with him, kept quiet. Then the clansman Ratthapala's parents went to his friends and said to them, "Dears, the clansman Ratthapala has laid down on the bare floor, having said, 'Right here I shall either die or receive the going forth.' Come, dears, go to the clansman Ratthapala and say to him, 'The friend Ratthapala, you are your parents' only son, dear and beloved, etc. Get up, friend Ratthapala, eat, drink, and amuse yourself. How could your parents give you their permission to go forth from the home life into homelessness while you are still living?' Then the clansman Ratthapala's friends went to him and said, 'Friend Ratthapala, you are your parents' only son, dear and beloved. You have been raised in comfort, brought up in comfort. You know nothing of suffering. Dear Ratthapala, get up, friend Ratthapala. Eat, drink, and amuse yourself. While eating, drinking, and amusing yourself, you can be happy, enjoying sensual pleasures, and making merit. Your parents do not permit you to go forth from the home life into homelessness. Even in case of your death, they would lose you unwillingly. So how could they give you their permission to go forth from the home life into homelessness while you are still living? When this was said, the clansman Ratapala was silent. For the second time and for the third time, his friend said to him, "Friend Ratapala, you are your parents' only son, etc. How could they give you their permission to go forth from the home life into homelessness while you are still living?" For the third time, the clansman Ratapala was silent. Then the clansman Ratapala's friends went to his parents and said to them, "Mother and father, the clansman Ratapala is lying down there on the bare floor, having said, 'Right here I shall either die or get the going forth.' Now, if you do not give him your permission to go forth from the home life into homelessness, he will die there. But if you give him your permission, you will see him after he has gone. And if he does not enjoy the going forth, what else can he do then but return here? So give him your permission to go forth from the home life into homelessness." Then, dears, we give the clansman Ratapala permission to go forth from the home life into homelessness. But when he has gone forth, he must visit his parents. Then the clansman Ratapala's friends went to him and told him, "Get up, friend Ratapala. Your parents permit you to go forth from the home life into homelessness. But when you have gone forth, you must visit your parents." The clansman Ratapala then got up, and when he had regained his strength, he went to the Blessed One, and after paying homage to him, he sat down at one side and told him, "Venerable Sir, I have my parents' permission to go forth from the home life into homelessness. Let the Blessed One give me the going forth." Then the clansman Ratapala received the going forth under the Blessed One. He received the full ordination. Then not long after the Venerable Ratapala had received the full ordination, a half month after he had received the full ordination, the Blessed One, having stayed at Tulakotita as long as he chose, set out to wander towards Savatthi. Wandering by stages, he eventually arrived at Savatthi, and there he lived at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. Before long, dwelling alone, withdrawn, diligent, ardent, and resolute, the Venerable Ratapala, by realizing for himself with direct knowledge, here now entered upon and abided in that supreme goal of the holy life, for the sake of which clansmen rightly go forth from the home life into homelessness. He directly knew birth is destroyed, the holy life has been lived, what had to be done has been done. There is no more coming to any state of being. And the Venerable Ratapala became one of the Arahants. Then the Venerable Ratapala went to the Blessed One, and after paying homage to him, he sat down at one side and told him, "Venerable Sir, I wish to visit my parents if I have the Blessed One's permission." Then the Blessed One penetrated mentally the thoughts in Venerable Ratapala's mind. When he knew that the clansman Ratapala was incapable of abandoning the training and returning to the low life, he told him, "Now is the time, Ratapala, to do as you think fit." I'll stop here for a moment. So although here the sutta says, before long, dwelling alone, withdrawn, diligent, ardent, and resolute, the Venerable Ratapala, by realizing for himself with direct knowledge, here now entered upon and abided in the supreme goal of the holy life. Actually, it must have been a few years before he became enlightened. Then the Venerable Ratapala rose from his seat, and after paying homage to the Blessed One, he departed, keeping him on his right. He then set his resting place in order, and taking his bowl and outer robe, set out to wander towards Tulakotita. Wandering by stages, he eventually arrived at Tulakotita. There he lived in Tulakotita, in King Koravia's Migachira garden. Then when it was morning, he dressed, and taking his bowl and outer robe, went into Tulakotita for alms. As he was wandering for alms from house to house in Tulakotita, he came to his own father's house. Now on that occasion, the Venerable Ratapala's father was sitting in the hall of the central door, having his hair dressed. When he saw the Venerable Ratapala coming in the distance, he said, our only son, dear and beloved, was made to go forth by these bald-pated recluses. Then at his own father's house, the Venerable Ratthapala received neither alms nor a polite refusal. Instead, he received only abuse. Just then, a slave woman belonging to one of his relatives was about to throw away some old porridge. Seeing this, the Venerable Ratthapala said to her, "Sister, if that stuff is to be thrown away, then pour it into my bowl here." While she was doing so, she recognized the characteristic features of his hands, his feet, and his voice. Then he went to his mother and said, "Please know, my lady, that my Lord's son, Ratthapala, has arrived." The mother said, "Gracious, if what you say is true, you are no longer a slave." Stop here for a moment. So you see, when he went back to his own house, I think his father did not recognize him after so many years. So abused him, chased him away. So when he walked away, he saw the slave about to pour away overnight porridge. So he asked her to pour it into his bowl. And when she did so, she recognized him. So told the mother. The mother was surprised. Then the Venerable Ratthapala's mother went to his father and said, "Please know, householder, they say that the clansman Ratthapala has arrived." Just then the Venerable Ratthapala was eating the old porridge by the wall of a certain shelter. His father went to him and said, "Ratthapala, my dear, surely there is, and you'll be eating old porridge. Is there not your own house to go to?" Stop here. So here the father saw him eating this old porridge, could hardly speak, could not finish his sentence. And Ratthapala said, "How could we have a house, householder, when we have gone forth from the home life into homelessness? We are homeless, householder. We went to your house, but we received neither alms nor a polite refusal there. Instead, we received only abuse. Come, dear Ratthapala, let us go to the house." "Enough, householder. My meal for today is finished." "Then, dear Ratthapala, consent to accept tomorrow's meal." The Venerable Ratthapala consented in silence. Stop here for a moment. So here you see, he addressed his father as householder. In Mandarin, we will say "Ji Shi", "Gu Su", "Gui Si". So he said, "We went to your house, you didn't offer us any food, instead you abused us." So his father asked him to go home. He said, "We don't have a home to go to." His father invited him for the next day's meal. Then, knowing that the Venerable Ratthapala had consented, his father went back to his own house, where he had gold coins and bullion made into a large heap and covered it with mats. Then he told the Venerable Ratthapala's former wives, "Come, daughters-in-law, adorn yourselves with ornaments in the way Ratthapala found you most dear and lovable." When night had ended, the Venerable Ratthapala's father had good food of various kinds prepared in his own house, and had the time announced to the Venerable Ratthapala, "It is time, dear Ratthapala, the meal is ready." Then, it being morning, the Venerable Ratthapala dressed, and taking his bowl and outer robe, he went to his own father's house and sat down on the seat made ready. Then his father had the pile of gold coins and bullion uncovered and said, "Dear Ratthapala, this is your maternal fortune. Your paternal fortune is another, and your ancestral fortune is yet another. Dear Ratthapala, you can enjoy the wealth and make merit. Come then, dear, abandon the training and return to the low life. Enjoy the wealth and make merit." Stop here for a moment. So here, when the Ratthapala came back to the house, his father brought out all the property from the mother's side, gold coins and bullion. And then he said, "This is only your mother's property. Your father's property has still not come out, and your grandparents' properties also have not are not here. In other words, there's a lot of wealth in this family. Come back, be a layman, enjoy life. At the same time, you can make merit. And then the father also asked the former wives to dress up very nicely for him. Last time, during the Buddha's days, they did not have banks. So your money, you have to hide it somewhere. So this rich man, he took out his hidden property. And Ratapala said, "Householder, if you would follow my advice, then have this pile of gold coins and bullion loaded on carts and carried away to be dumped midstream in the river Ganges." Why is that? Because, householder, on account of this, there will arise for you sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. Then the Venerable Ratapala's former wives clasped his feet and said to him, "What are they like, my Lord's son, the nymphs for whose sake you lead the holy life?" And he said, "We do not lead the holy life for the sake of nymphs, sisters." And they said, "Our Lord's son Ratapala calls us sisters." They cried, and right there they fainted. Then the Venerable Ratapala told his father, "Householder, if there is a meal to be given, then give it. Do not harass us." And his father said, "Eat then, dear Ratapala, the meal is ready." Stop here for a moment. So here you see, he's very blunt to his father. Instead of appreciating his father's loads of money, he said, "If you listen to me, throw away all this property in the river Ganges." Why? Because if you are attached to it, it will cause you sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair later. So his former wives clasped his feet and asked him, "What are they like, the nymphs, the heavenly nymphs for whose sake you lead the holy life?" These Indians have a belief that if a person becomes a monk, it is very likely that that person will be reborn in heaven. So these his former wives thought this for the sake of being reborn in heaven and having a lot of celestial nymphs as his wives that he renounced. But he said that's not the aim of leading the holy life. He called them sisters and they fainted. Then he told his father, "Don't harass us. If you want to give us a meal, just give us a meal." His father asked him to eat. Then with his own hands, the Venerable Ratapala's father served and satisfied him with the various kinds of good food. When the Venerable Ratapala had eaten and had withdrawn his hand from the bowl, he stood up and uttered these stanzas. "Behold, a puppet here pranked out, a body built up out of sores, sick, an object for concern, where no stability abides. Behold a figure here pranked out, with jewelry and earrings too, a skeleton wrapped up in skin, made attractive by its clothes, its feet adorned with henna dye, and powder smeared upon its face. It may beguile a fool, but not a seeker of the further shore. Its hair is dressed in eightfold plaits, and unguents smeared upon its eyes. It may beguile a fool, but not a seeker of the further shore. A filthy body well adorned, like a new painted unguent pot. It may beguile a fool, but not a seeker of the further shore. The deer hunter set out the snare, but the deer did not spring the trap. We ate the bait and now depart, leaving the hunters to lament." Stop here for a moment. So you see, he's very blunt with his parents and former wives. He's saying his former wives just look just like a puppet, all dressed up in jewelry and earrings and attractive clothes, feet adorned with henna dye and powder smeared upon his face. He may fool an ordinary man, but not a seeker of the further shore, cultivator. It's a filthy body, well adorned, just like a deer hunter want to trap the deer, but he said he's eaten and he's leaving the hunters to lament. So he's extremely blunt to his parents. After the Venerable Ratapala had stood up and uttered these stanzas, he went to King Koravia's Megachira garden and sat down at the root of a tree for the day's abiding. Then King Kuravya addressed his gamekeeper thus, "Good gamekeeper, tidy up the Migachira garden so that we may go to the pleasure garden to see a pleasing spot." "Yes, sire," he replied. Now while he was tidying up the Migachira garden, the gamekeeper saw the Venerable Ratthapala seated at the root of a tree for the day's abiding. When he saw him, he went to King Kuravya and told him, "Sire, the Migachira garden has been tidied up. The clansman Ratthapala is there, the son of the leading clan in this same Tulakotita, of whom you have always spoken highly. He is seated at the root of a tree for the day's abiding." And the king said, "Then, good Migava, enough of the pleasure garden for today. Now we shall go to pay respects to that master Ratthapala." Then saying, "Give away all the food that has been prepared there." King Kuravya had a number of state carriages prepared, and mounting one of them, accompanied by the other carriages, he drove out from Tulakotita with the full pomp of royalty to see the Venerable Ratthapala. He drove thus as far as the road was passable for carriages, and then he dismounted from his carriage and went forward on foot with the following of the most eminent officials to where the Venerable Ratthapala was. He exchanged greetings with the Venerable Ratthapala, and when this courteous and amiable talk was finished, he stood at one side and said, "Here is an elephant rug. Let Master Ratthapala be seated on it." "There is no need, great king. Sit down. I am sitting on my own mat." Stop here for a moment. So this King Kuravya, evidently, he has a high regard for this Venerable Ratthapala. So when he heard that Ratthapala had come back, quickly went to see him. King Kuravya sat down on a seat made ready and said, "Master Ratthapala, there are 4 kinds of loss. Because they have undergone these 4 kinds of loss, some people here shave off their hair and beard, put on the yellow robe, and go forth from the home life into homelessness. What are the 4? They are lost through aging, lost through sickness, loss of wealth, and loss of relatives." And what is lost through aging? Here, Master Ratthapala, someone is old, aged, burdened with years, advanced in life, come to the last stage. He considers thus, "I am old, aged, burdened with years, advanced in life, come to the last stage. It is no longer easy for me to acquire unacquired wealth or to augment wealth already acquired. Suppose I shave off my hair and beard, put on the yellow robe, and go forth from the home life into homelessness." Because he has undergone that loss through aging, he shaves off his hair and beard, puts on the yellow robe, and goes forth from the home life into homelessness. This is called loss through aging. But Master Ratthapala is now still young, a black-haired young man, endowed with the blessing of youth, in the prime of life. Master Ratthapala has not undergone any loss through aging. What has he known or seen or heard that he has gone forth from the home life into homelessness? And what is lost through sickness? Here, Master Ratthapala, someone is afflicted, suffering, and gravely ill. He considers thus, "I am afflicted, suffering, and gravely ill. It is no longer easy for me to acquire unacquired wealth," etc. Because he has undergone that loss through sickness, he goes forth from the home life into homelessness. This is called loss through sickness. But Master Ratthapala now is free from illness and affliction. He possesses a good digestion that is neither too cool nor too warm but medium. Master Ratthapala has not undergone any loss through sickness. What has he known or seen or heard that he has gone forth from the home life into homelessness? And what is loss of wealth? Here, Master Ratthapala, someone is rich, of great wealth, of great possessions. Gradually, his wealth dwindles away. He considers thus, "Formerly, I was rich, of great wealth, of great possessions. Gradually, my wealth has dwindled away. It is no longer easy for me to acquire unacquired wealth," etc. Because he has undergone that loss of wealth, he goes forth from the home life into homelessness. This is called loss of wealth. But Master Ratthapala is the son of the leading clan in this same Tulakotita. Master Ratthapala has not undergone any loss of wealth. What has he known or seen or heard that he has gone forth from the home life into homelessness? And what is loss of relatives? Here, Master Ratapala, someone has many friends and companions, kinsmen and relatives. Gradually, those relatives of his dwindle away. He considers thus, formerly I had many friends and companions, kinsmen and relatives. Gradually, those relatives of mine have dwindled away. It is no longer easy for me to acquire unacquired wealth, etc. Because he has undergone that loss of relatives, he goes forth from the home life into homelessness. This is called loss of relatives. But Master Ratapala has many friends and companions, kinsmen and relatives in this same Tulakotita. Master Ratapala has not undergone any loss of relatives. What has he known or seen or heard that he has gone forth from the home life into homelessness? Master Ratapala, these are the 4 kinds of loss. Because they have undergone these 4 kinds of loss, some people here shave off their hair and beard, put on the yellow robe, and go forth from the home life into homelessness. Master Ratapala has not undergone any of these. What has he known or seen or heard that he has gone forth from the home life into homelessness? And Venerable Ratapala said, Great King, Maharaja, there are 4 summaries of the Dhamma that have been taught by the Blessed One who knows and sees, Arahant Sammasambuddha. Knowing and seeing and hearing them, I went forth from the home life into homelessness. What are the 4? 1. Life in any world is unstable, it is swept away. This is the first summary of the Dhamma taught by the Blessed One who knows and sees, Arahant Sammasambuddha. Knowing and seeing and hearing this, I went forth from the home life into homelessness. 2. Life in any world has no shelter and no protector. This is the second summary of the Dhamma taught by the Blessed One who knows and sees, Arahant Sammasambuddha, etc. 3. Life in any world has nothing of its own. One has to leave all and pass on. This is the third summary of the Dhamma taught by the Blessed One who knows and sees, Arahant Sammasambuddha, etc. 4. Life in any world is incomplete, insatiate, the slave of craving. This is the 4th summary of the Dhamma taught by the Blessed One who knows and sees, Arahant Sammasambuddha, etc. Great King, these are the 4 summaries of the Dhamma that have been taught by the Blessed One who knows and sees, Arahant Sammasambuddha. Knowing and seeing and hearing them, I went forth from the home life into homelessness. And the king said, Master Ratapala said, life in any world is unstable, it is swept away. How should the meaning of that statement be understood? And Venerable Ratapala said, what do you think, great king? When you were 20 or 25 years old, were you an expert rider of elephants, an expert horseman, an expert charioteer, an expert archer, an expert swordsman, strong in thighs and arms, sturdy, capable in battle? And the king said, when I was 20 or 25 years old, Master Ratapala, I was an expert rider of elephants, an expert horseman, etc., strong in thighs and arms, sturdy, capable in battle. Sometimes I wondered if I had supernormal power then. I do not see anyone who could equal me in strength. What do you think, great king? Are you now as strong in thighs and arms, as sturdy and as capable in battle? No, Master Ratapala. Now I am old, aged, burdened with years, advanced in life, come to the last stage. My years have turned 80. Sometimes I mean to put my foot here, and I put my foot somewhere else. Great King, Venerable Ratapala said, it was on account of this that the Blessed One who knows and sees, Arahant Sammasambuddha, said, life in any world is unstable, it is swept away. And when I knew and saw and heard this, I went forth from the home life into homelessness. And the king said, it is wonderful, Master Ratapala. It is marvelous how well that has been expressed by the Blessed One who knows and sees, Arahant Sammasambuddha. Life in any world is unstable. It is swept away. It is indeed so. Stop here for a moment. So here, this king said when he was young, he was extremely strong. He was so strong. Sometimes he wondered where all his strength came from. And he couldn't see anyone who could equal him in strength. But now that he's 80 years old, he said he wants to put his foot here and his foot goes somewhere else. just like many people. Walk also unstable. So he agreed. Life is unstable. It is swept away. Master Ratapala, there exists in this court elephant troops and cavalry, and chariot troops and infantry, which will serve to subdue any threats to us. Now, Master Ratapala said, life in any world has no shelter and no protector. How should the meaning of that statement be understood? What do you think, great king? Do you have any chronic ailment? I have a chronic wind ailment, Master Ratapala. Sometimes my friends and companions, kinsmen and relatives stand around me thinking, now King Koravya is about to die. Now King Koravya is about to die. What do you think, great king? Can you command your friends and relatives, your friends and companions, your kinsmen and relatives? Come, my good friends and companions, my kinsmen and relatives, all of you present, share this painful feeling so that I may feel less pain. Or do you have to feel that pain yourself alone? I cannot command my friends and companions, my kinsmen and relatives thus, Master Ratapala. I have to feel that pain alone. Great king, it was on account of this that the Blessed One who knows and sees, Arahant Sammasambuddha, said, life in any world has no shelter and no protector. And when I knew and saw and heard this, I went forth from the home life into homelessness. It is wonderful, Master Ratapala. It is marvelous how well that has been expressed by the Blessed One who knows and sees, Arahant Sammasambuddha. Life in any world has no shelter and no protector. It is indeed so. Let's stop here for a moment. So here, referring to this saying that life in any world has no shelter and no protector, the king says he has so much soldiers, so much troops. He thought that was his shelter and protector. But when this Venerable Ratapala asked him about his sickness, he said, oh yeah, he has this sickness which gives him so much pain, and he cannot share that pain with anybody else. So that's why it's true, life has no shelter and no protector. Master Ratapala, there exists in this court abundant gold coins and bullion stored away in vaults and depositories. Now Master Ratapala said, life in any world has nothing of its own. One has to leave all and pass on. How should the meaning of that statement be understood? What do you think, great king? You now enjoy yourself, provided and endowed with the 5 chords of sensual pleasure. But will you be able to have it of the life to come? Let me likewise enjoy myself, provided and endowed with these same 5 chords of sensual pleasure. Or will others take over this property, while you will have to pass on according to your actions or karma? I cannot have it thus of the life to come, Master Ratapala. On the contrary, others will take over this property while I have to pass on according to my actions. Great king, it was on account of this that the Blessed One who knows and sees, Arahant Sammasambuddha, said, life in any world has nothing of its own. One has to leave all and pass on. And when I knew and saw and heard this, I went forth from the home life into homelessness. It is wonderful, Master Ratapala. It is marvelous how well that has been expressed by the Blessed One who knows and sees, Arahant Sammasambuddha. Life in any world has nothing of its own. One has to leave all and pass on. It is indeed so. Stop here for a moment. So here, this Venerable Ratapala is trying to show the king that we came into this world empty-handed. And however much property and wealth we accumulate, not 1 cent we can take with us. So it's no point to accumulate so much money when you can't even take 1 cent with you. So that's why this Venerable Ratapala, he realized this and left home. Now Master Ratapala said, life in any world is incomplete, insatiate, the slave of craving. How should the meaning of that statement be understood? What do you think, great king? Do you reign over the rich Kuru country? Yes, Master Ratapala, I do. What do you think, great king? Suppose a trustworthy and reliable man came to you from the east and said, please know, great king, that I have come from the east, and there I saw a large country, powerful and rich, very populous and crowded with people. There are plenty of elephant troops there, plenty of cavalry, chariot troops and infantry. There is plenty of ivory there, and plenty of gold coins and bullion, both unworked and worked, and plenty of women for wives. With your present forces, you can conquer it. Conquer it then, great king. What would you do? We would conquer it and reign over it, Master Ratapala. What do you think, great king? Suppose a trustworthy and reliable man came to you from the west, from the north, from the south, and similarly said, please know, great king, that I have come from the north, from the west, from the south, and there I saw a large country, powerful and rich, etc. And with your present forces, you can conquer it. Conquer it then, great king. What would you do? We would conquer it too and reign over it, Master Ratapala. Great king, it was on account of this that the Blessed One who knows and sees, Arahant Sammasambuddha, said, life in any world is incomplete, insatiate, the slave of craving. And when I knew and saw and heard this, I went forth from the home life into homelessness. It is wonderful, Master Ratapala. It is marvelous how well that has been expressed by the Blessed One who knows and sees. Arahant Sammasambuddha. Life in any world is incomplete, insatiate, the slave of craving. It is indeed so. Stop here for a moment. So here, this Venerable Ratapala showed the king that even though now he is so rich and powerful, and yet he is not satisfied. If there were another country, rich and he is able to conquer it now with his army, he would, because of greed, still want to conquer some other countries. However, many countries he conquers, still not enough. Still cannot satisfy that greed, that craving. That is what the Venerable Ratapala said. And having said, he said further, I see men wealthy in the world, who yet from ignorance give not their gathered wealth. Greedily they hoard away their riches, longing still for further sensual pleasures. A king who has conquered the earth by force and rules over the land, the ocean bounds, is yet unsated with the sea's near shore and hungers for its further shore as well. Most other people too, not just a king, encounter death with craving unabated. With plans still incomplete, they leave the corpse. Desires remain unsated in the world. His relatives lament and rend their hair, crying, Ah me, alas, our love is dead. They bear away the body wrapped in shrouds to place it on a pyre and burn it there. Clad in a shroud, he leaves his wealth behind. Prodded with stakes, he burns upon the pyre. And as he dies, no relatives or friends can offer him shelter and refuge here. While his heirs take over his wealth, this being must pass on according to his actions or karma. And as he dies, nothing can follow him, not child, nor wife, nor wealth, nor royal estate. Longevity is not acquired with wealth, nor can prosperity banish old age. Short is this life, as all the sages say. Eternity it knows not, only change. The rich and poor alike shall feel death's touch. The fool and sage as well shall feel it too. But while the fool lies stricken by his folly, no sage will ever tremble at the touch. Better is wisdom here than any wealth, since by wisdom one gains the final goal. For people through ignorance do evil deeds, while failing to reach the goal from life to life. As one goes to the womb and the next world, renewing the successive round of births, another of little wisdom, trusting him, goes also to the womb and the next world. Just as a robber caught in burglary is made to suffer for his evil deed, so people after death in the next world are made to suffer for their evil deeds. Sensual pleasures, varied, sweet, delightful, in many different ways disturb the mind. Seeing the danger in these sensual ties, I chose to lead the homeless life, O king. As fruits fall from the tree, so people too, both young and old, fall when this body breaks. Seeing this too, O king, I have gone forth, better is the recluse's life assured. That's the end of the sutta. So here, when somebody like this Ratapala, he learns the Dhamma and understands the Dhamma, then he sees no point in living an ordinary life. When we lead an ordinary life, because of the self, which we have not eliminated, we become selfish. So we strive very hard for our own end only, for our own ends. So in the process of striving to benefit yourself, you create a lot of unwholesome karma. So at the end, after you acquire a lot of wealth, a big family, big house, big car, everything, when it's time for you to go, a lot of people start to think what is life all about. All that they wanted for, they strove for, they have attained. At the end of life, they have to leave everything behind. So what's the point of making all that striving? So if somebody understands the Dhamma, then he's willing to let go. We come to the next sutta, 83, Makkadeva Sutta, King Makkadeva. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Mithila in the Makkadeva mango grove. Then in a certain place, the Blessed One smiled. It occurred to the Venerable Ananda, what is the reason, what is the cause for the Blessed One's smile? The Tathagatas do not smile for no reason. So he arranged his upper robe on one shoulder, and extending his hands in reverential salutation towards the Blessed One, he asked, Venerable Sir, what is the reason, what is the cause for the Blessed One's smile? The Tathagatas do not smile for no reason. And the Buddha said, once Ananda, in this same Mithila, there was a king named Makkadeva. He was the righteous king who ruled by the Dhamma, a great king who was established in the Dhamma. He conducted himself by the Dhamma among Brahmins and householders, among town dwellers and country folk, and he observed the Uposatha days on the 14th, 15th and 8th of the fortnight. And stop here for a moment. Now, these Uposatha days are the days when a lay person keeps the 8 precepts and cultivates the spiritual path on that day. And the days are here it says 14, 15 and 8th of the fortnight. Because in the Indian calendar, they count every fortnight. So in our Chinese calendar, the lunar calendar, it will be the 8th day, the 15th day, the 23rd day, and 30th day of the lunar month. Sometimes you don't have 30 days in the lunar month, you have 29 days. Then the last one is the 29th day. So like when it says 14th, 14 it means the 29th day of the lunar month. So the 15 means either the 15th day of the lunar month or the 30th day of the lunar month. That's what you mean by the 15th day of the fortnight. And then the 8th day of the fortnight is either the 8th day of our lunar calendar or the 23rd day of the lunar calendar. To continue. Now at the end of many years, many hundred years, many thousand years, King Makkadeva addressed his barber thus, Good barber, when you see any grey hairs growing on my head, then tell me. Yes, sire, he replied. And after many years, many hundred years, many thousand years, the barber saw grey hairs growing on King Makkadeva's head. When he saw them, he said to the king, The divine messengers have appeared, sire. Grey hairs are to be seen growing on your majesty's head. And he said, Then, good barber, pull out those grey hairs carefully with tweezers and put them in my palm. Yes, sire, he replied. And he pulled out those grey hairs carefully with tweezers and put them in the king's palm. Then King Makkadeva gave the best township to his barber, and calling the prince, his eldest son, he said, Dear Prince, the divine messengers have appeared. Grey hairs are seen growing on my head. I have enjoyed human sensual pleasures. Now it is time to seek divine sensual pleasures. Come, dear Prince, take over the kingship. I shall shave off my hair and beard, put on the yellow robe, and go forth from the home life into homelessness. And now, dear Prince, when you too see grey hairs growing on your head, then after giving the best township to your barber, and after carefully instructing the prince, your eldest son, in kingship, shave off your hair and beard, put on the yellow robe, and go forth from the home life into homelessness. Continue this good practice instituted by me, and do not be the last man. Dear Prince, when there are two men living, he under whom there occurs a breach of this good practice, he is the last man among them. Therefore, dear Prince, I say to you, continue this good practice instituted by me, and do not be the last man. Then after giving the best township to his barber, and after carefully instructing the prince, his eldest son, in kingship, in the Makadeva mango grove, he shaved off his hair and beard, put on the yellow robe, and went forth from the home life into homelessness. I'll stop here for a moment. So here you see this wise king. When grey hairs appeared on his head, he thought his time is limited. So the best thing to do is to cultivate the holy life so that he can be reborn in a good place and enjoy life again. But a lot of people don't have this wisdom. They continue struggling and never think that death will come sooner than they realize. And they work until they die. They cannot let go. So only a person who knows the Dhamma, understands the Dhamma, can see impermanence, will have the wisdom to let go when he still has the energy to practice in his old age. Some people, they want to continue until the very last moment. When they really want to practice, they don't have that energy, that vigor to really practice anymore. So he's asking his son to be like him, and for the other generations to continue this practice. Whenever old age comes and you see grey hairs, just drop everything and practice the holy life. He abided pervading 1/4 with a mind imbued with loving kindness. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth. So above, below, around and everywhere, and as to all as to himself, he abided pervading the all-encompassing world with a mind imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. He abided pervading 1/4 with a mind imbued with compassion, similarly with a mind imbued with joy, with equanimity. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth quarter. So above, below, around and everywhere, and to all as to himself, he abided pervading the all-encompassing world with a mind imbued with the four Brahma Viharas, Metta, Karuna, Mudita and Upekkha, namely loving kindness, compassion, joy and equanimity, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. For 84,000 years, King Makadeva played childish games. For 84,000 years, he acted as vice regent. For 84,000 years, he governed the kingdom. For 84,000 years, he led the holy life in this Makadeva mango grove, after shaving off his hair and beard, putting on the yellow robe, and going forth from the home life into homelessness. By developing the four divine abodes, Brahma Viharas, on the dissolution of the body after death, he passed on to the Brahma world. Stop here for a moment. So here, this number 84,000 is just a great number in Indian culture. There is some sutta where the Buddha mentioned that humans, the lifespan varies, and the lowest it can go is 10 years. The highest it can go 80,000 years generally. But for somebody like this king, who is a wheel-turning king, who rules according to Dhamma, follows Dhamma, he's supposed to have a longer lifespan. So this king, after he renounced his kingdom, he practiced the holy life. This Indian tradition, they like to practice these 4 things. Metta, Karuna, Mudita, and Upekkha, these 4 divine abidings, and they meditate to attain these states, attain the jhana, so that they can radiate these 4 qualities. And because they can attain jhana after passing away, they are reborn in the Brahma heavens, the heaven of the first jhana. Now, at the end of many years, many 100 years, many 1,000 years, King Makadeva's son addressed his barber thus. So similarly, the King Makadeva's son, after a long time, when grey hairs appeared on his hair, he also renounced his kingdom. And after renouncing his kingdom, he developed the 4 divine abodes. And on the dissolution of the body after death, he passed on to the Brahma world. The descendants of King Makadeva's son, to the number of 84,000 kings in succession, after shaving off their hair and beard and put on the yellow robe, went forth from the home life into homelessness, in this Makadeva mango grove. They abided, pervading 1 quarter with the mind imbued with loving kindness, with compassion, with joy, with equanimity, etc., without ill will. For 84,000 years they played childish games. For 84,000 years they acted as vice regents. For 84,000 years they governed the kingdom. For 84,000 years they led the holy life in this Makadeva mango grove. After shaving off the hair and beard, putting on the yellow robe, and going forth from the home life into homelessness by developing the 4 divine abodes. And on the dissolution of the body after death, they passed on to the Brahma world. Stop here for a moment. So the descendants of King Makadeva, they followed what he taught and followed his advice. Each one of them, in their old age, they renounced the kingdom, handed it over to their son, and cultivated the holy life and practiced the 4 Brahma Viharas, so that they were reborn in the Brahma world. Nimi was the last of those kings. He was a righteous king who ruled by the Dhamma, a great king who was established in the Dhamma. He conducted himself by the Dhamma among Brahmins and householders, among town dwellers and country folk, and he observed the Uposatha days on the 14th, 15th, and 8th of the fortnight. Once Ananda and the gods of the 33 had met together and were seated in the Sudhamma assembly. This discussion arose among them. It is a gain, sirs, for the people of Videha. It is a great gain for the people of Videha that their king Nimi is a righteous king who rules by the Dhamma, a great king who is established in the Dhamma. He conducts himself by the Dhamma among Brahmins and householders, among town dwellers and country folk, and he observes the Uposatha days on the 14th, 15th, and 8th of the fortnight. Then Sakka Devaraja addressed the gods of the 33. Good sirs, do you want to see King Nimi? And they said, good sir, we want to see King Nimi. Now on that occasion, it being the Uposatha day of the 15th, King Nimi had washed his head and ascended to the upper palace chamber where he was seated for the Uposatha observance. Then just as quickly as a strong man might extend his flexed arm, or flex his extended arm, Sakka Devaraja vanished among the gods of the 33 and appeared in the presence of King Nimi. He said, it is a gain for you, great king. It is a great gain for you, great king. When the gods of the 33 had met together and were seated in the Sudhamma assembly, this discussion arose among them. It is a gain, sirs, for the people of Videha. It is a great gain for the people of Videha that their king Nimi is a righteous king who rules by the Dhamma, etc. Great king, the gods want to see you. I shall send a chariot harnessed to 1,000 thoroughbreds for you, great king. Great king, mount the divine chariot without misgiving. King Nimi consented in silence. Then just as quickly as a strong man might extend his flexed arm, or flex his extended arm, Sakka Devaraja vanished in the presence of King Nimi and appeared among the gods of the 33. Stop here for a moment. So you can see from here, when somebody is so virtuous like this King Nimi, even the gods know, and the gods having great respect for him, knowing that he practices the meditation and probably will be reborn in the Brahma heavens. So they had great respect for him and invited him to heaven. Then Sakka Devaraja addressed the charioteer Matali thus: Come, good Matali, prepare a chariot harnessed to 1,000 thoroughbreds and go to King Nimi and say, Great king, this chariot harnessed to 1,000 thoroughbreds has been sent for you by Sakka Devaraja. Great king, mount the divine chariot without misgiving. May your words be held sacred, the charioteer Matali replied. And having prepared a chariot harnessed to 1,000 thoroughbreds, he went to King Nimi and said, Great king, this chariot harnessed to 1,000 thoroughbreds has been sent for you by Sakka Devaraja. Great king, mount the divine chariot without misgiving. But great king, by which route shall I drive you? By that on which doers of evil experience the results of evil actions, or by that on which doers of good experience the results of good actions? Drive me by both routes, Matali. Stop here for a moment. So here seems like this Deva Matali asked this King Nimi, do you want to go to the heaven of the 33 by the way of hell's way or some other heaven's way? Then he said, drive him by both. So this chariot had to go to two places. Matali brought King Nimi to the Sudhamma assembly. Sakka Devaraja saw King Nimi coming in the distance and said to him, Come, great king, welcome, great king. The gods of the 33, great king, seated in the Sudhamma assembly, have expressed themselves thus. It is a gain, sirs, for the people of Videha. It is a great gain for the people of Videha, etc., etc. Great king, the gods of the 33 want to see you. Great king, enjoy divine might among the gods. And he said, Enough, good sir, let the charioteer drive me back to Mithila. There I will conduct myself by the Dhamma among Brahmins and householders, among town dwellers and country folk. There I will observe the Uposatha days on the 14th, 15th and 8th of the fortnight. Then Sakka Devaraja told the charioteer Matali, Come, good Matali, prepare the chariot harnessed to 1,000 thoroughbreds and drive King Nimi back to Mithila. May your word be held sacred, the charioteer Matali replied. And having prepared the chariot harnessed to 1,000 thoroughbreds, he drove King Nimi back to Mithila. And there indeed King Nimi conducted himself by the Dhamma among Brahmins and householders, among town dwellers and country folk. And there observed the Uposatha days on the 14th, 15th and 8th of the fortnight. Then at the end of many years, many hundreds of years, many thousands of years, King Nimi addressed his barber thus. So similarly, he told his barber, if grey hairs appeared on my hair, he tell me. Then after that, he renounced his kingdom and developed the 4 divine abodes. On the dissolution of the body after death, he passed on to the Brahma world. Stop here for a moment. So here you see, when he went up to heaven, Sakka Devaraja invited him to stay in heaven, no need to go back to earth. And he said no, he wants to go back to earth. So I had to drive him back. There are some people like that, they are so virtuous, probably they can be invited up to heaven. Now King Nimi had a son named Kalara Janaka. He did not go forth from the home life into homelessness. He broke that good practice. He was the last man among them. Now Ananda, it may be that you think thus. Certainly someone else was King Makadeva on that occasion, but it should not be regarded thus. I was King Makadeva on that occasion. I instituted that good practice, and later generations continued that good practice instituted by me. But that kind of good practice does not lead to disenchantment, to dispassion, to cessation, to peace, to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to nibbana, but only to reappearance in the Brahma world. But there is this kind of good practice that has been instituted by me now, which leads to complete disenchantment, to dispassion, to cessation, to peace, to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to nibbana. And what is that good practice? It is this Noble Eightfold Path. That is, right view, right thoughts, right speech, right actions, right livelihood, right effort, right recollection, and right concentration. This is the good practice instituted by me now, which leads to complete disenchantment, to dispassion, to cessation, to peace, to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to nibbana. Ananda, I say to you, continue this good practice instituted by me and do not be the last man. Ananda, when there are two men living, he under whom there occurs a breach of this good practice, he is the last man among them. Therefore, Ananda, I say to you, continue this good practice instituted by me and do not be the last man. That is what the Blessed One said. The Venerable Ananda was satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. So, it's the end of the sutta. So here the Buddha said, last time he was that King Makadeva who taught his descendants to practice like him, to renounce the kingship when grey hairs appear and practice the holy life so that they can be reborn in the Brahma heavens. But the Buddha said that type of practice only leads to rebirth in the Brahma world. But now the Buddha says he is teaching a new practice, that is the Noble Eightfold Path. And the Buddha says, now that we have learned the Noble Eightfold Path, we are like his son, Sakyaputta, sons of the Sakyan. And it is our duty to carry on this practice of the Noble Eightfold Path. And the Buddha said, don't be the last man. That means don't be the person who stops practicing the Noble Eightfold Path. If you stop practicing the Noble Eightfold Path, then after that it will be completely lost. I will be lost for a long time until the next Buddha appears. So the Buddha says, don't be the last man. Now that you know this good practice that the Buddha has started, so we should continue this good practice of the Noble Eightfold Path. And hope later generations will continue to study the suttas taught by the Buddha and practice the Noble Eightfold Path in the same way that the Buddha and his disciples practice according to the suttas. So we stop here.
The last part you mentioned about the next Buddha, and in the text of whatever books I read, indeed given Maitreya, and you see the very big fat person was depicted in the temples and all that, or there should be no description about
Maitreya Buddha, the statue of Maitreya Buddha that Chinese have made, that is showing him so fat with children all around him, is just a concept, a Chinese concept, because Chinese think that fat person is Hock Siong, has a lot of luck, and they think that the Buddhas are having a lot of blessings would be like that. But in my thinking, all Buddhas strive on the holy path. So I think all Buddhas should be quite slim. And you can find in our suttas that the Buddha praises ascetics who are slim. That's why, like the Buddha, he practices 1 meal a day, our Sakyamuni Buddha, and encourage his disciples to practice 1 meal a day. So I would think that all Buddhas also are like that. So I don't think you can find a fat Buddha like the Maitreya statue that people have created. Okay?
In the Sutta that we now discuss today, page 655, Buddha said, "Teaching the Dhamma, there is a faith that comes to be. With the rising of this, there arises. When this does not exist, there does not come to be. With the station of this, there ceases. How do we make this to be grounded in the statement of origination?"
This formula, when this exists, that comes to be. With the rising of this, that arises. When this does not exist, that does not come to be. The cessation of this, that ceases. This is a general formula of dependent origination for all cases. So in the case of the 12 links of dependent origination, the first link is ignorance. So because ignorance comes into existence, with the rising of ignorance, the next link, sankhara, comes to be. Sankhara is the will to live. So it continues like that. Because of the existence of sankhara, then consciousness arises. So similarly for all the links. So the reverse, when this does not exist, that does not come to be. So similarly, when ignorance is banished, because somebody learns the Dhamma and practices meditation so that he can see the Four Noble Truths clearly, then ignorance does not exist. So when ignorance does not exist, then sankhara, the will to live, does not come to be. With the cessation of ignorance, sankhara ceases. So similarly for the other links. Okay? Any stage. Any stage. And not only for the 12 links of dependent origination, it's for everything in this world. Everything in the world arises through conditions and ceases through conditions. Okay, shall we end now?